amongst brothers and sisters in recovery. I too am in recovery 18 years and strong. Thank you for having me, and in the words of your founder, let us count our blessings, not our grievances. Amen? Amen. If you'll bow your head with me, let us open this celebration together. Lord, we are grateful to be gathered here among each other in recovery. Lord, we are glad that you have made the way possible for us to continue providing support, care, and love for those that are struggling with addiction. Lord, we celebrate today as we talk about the many things that have to do with recovery, Lord, that we know that recovery happens, we know that recovery is possible, and we know that recovery is done together. So we just ask for you right now to move amongst this room and be with each and every one of our speakers as we learn more about recovery services, more about each other, and we celebrate the Oxford houses as they have made a way for men and women in recovery to have stable, supportive housing and a place to lay their head and call home. Lord, we are grateful for what you've done in our lives, grateful for what you're doing in the lives of each and every person here. Be with us this morning and throughout our day. In Jesus Christ's holy name we pray. Amen. Amen.
Thank you, thank you. We're going to have some welcoming remarks from Deputy Director Michael Langer from the Division of Behavioral Health and Recovery from the Washington Healthcare Authority. The authority has, over the years since 1991, supported the growth of Oxford House in Washington State. I come from a little state called North Carolina, and I was an outreach worker there for 15 years before I started helping out in the main office. And we always had this very healthy competition, and Washington State was always just a little bit ahead of us. And they're still a little bit ahead of us, so I challenge you to catch up finally. But we've always been very supported. Our staff is supported through the agency. It's been an incredible partnership. We use it as an example all over the country. We're very grateful to Michael to giving up some of his time this morning to come and welcome us. I give you Michael Langer.
You're an impressive group. It's a large audience today. That's wonderful. I want to thank Captain Kelly for a very nice opening and Kathleen for the invitation to be here. I too have been looking forward to this for a few years. We have been talking about having this here. Now I've done very little for it, but just excited to have you all here and showcase our great city, our great state. And we did go ahead and extend summer, so you do have some sunshine out there. And but that's not free. There is an exchange. And here's what I need from you. For the next 2 weeks, I need you all to commit to be Seattle Mariner fans. We are... oh, come on now. We were trying to end the biggest drought in professional sports, not history, but professional sports right now. Our team's trying to get to the playoffs first time in 20 years or so. So 2 more weeks, we hope to get there. In all seriousness, welcome to the World Convention. We're thrilled to have you here. This is my first in-person event in 3 years, this large, so I had to find the jacket and all the other things, trappings to come in here, so it's wonderful to be here. I also want to kind of put the thing I would typically put last first, which is to thank you all from the bottom of my heart and on behalf of Governor Inslee, our director, Sue Birch, of the agency, healthcare agency, our director of behavioral health, Carrie Waterland, and myself. The work you do is awesome, magical, critical, important. And for myself, I will say that I've got a thriving 34-year-old son who is married, 2 children, a home, a job, and he would not have any of that if it had not been for Oxford Homes. So thank you so very much. Yeah, my nerves today are really about trying to convey how genuinely appreciative we are at the state for all the work that you're doing. And I'll also go a step farther and say my colleagues around the country that administer these state services and state resources, we all owe a great deal of gratitude to all that you're doing across the country and across the globe, right? I mean, all around the world. We're going to do a little poll here real quickly. I'd like to get a sense of who's in the room. So we'll start in the state of Washington. How many of you are from Western Washington? Just raise your hand. There you go. All right. If you're new to the Northwest, there's a little bit of a mountain range between us. So how many are from Eastern Washington are in here today? There we go. A few Coug fans there. All right, so we want to welcome our guests. So those of you that are outside of the state of Washington, you go ahead and raise your hands up. Awesome. Yeah, that's a photo opportunity right there. That's great. Okay, how about outside of the 50 states, outside the United States? Do we have any of our international folks here today? Anybody coming in from Canada or other countries? A few? Maybe not. Okay, well, we know we're outside. We know that this work is happening elsewhere, and we certainly appreciate all that they do as well. Okay, I want to also take an opportunity to just recognize a few folks here this morning. I promise not to take too much time, but we had I'll start off with our long-term supporter in the state of Washington. She retired recently, Melinda Trujillo. She's having some family issues this morning, I guess, but I know she's wanted this to happen for so long, and we do want to recognize Melinda. We have a new leader of Oxford within our office, which is Heather Maxwell Reichert. Heather, raise your hand right up here. Thank you for being here. And I would also just, if you would indulge me a bit, I would like to have Judy Maxwell, Stacy Hatfield, and Ricky Mogul please raise your hands. They lead this effort in the state. And I'll go one step forward. We have a lot of outreach workers, and they're doing an awesome job. So Christina Stacy, Stephen Gum, John Hutchins, Selena Lewis, Annie Cleveland, Kelly Rimbley, Anna Rand, Nikki Hoskins, Emily Thatcher, Jim Roberts, and Matt Rakers. Thank you all very, very much. We tend to think of you as the angels in the state, just going out there and doing wonderful things and helping tons of people. Did I miss somebody? I don't want to miss anybody. Okay. I do want also one more raise of hands. If you do the work that they're doing in the state as outreach workers or kind of helping organize all this in their other states, please raise your hand too. How many outreach workers and stuff? Great to have you here. And I'm going to one more time. If you're a resident of a house now or have been recently, go ahead and raise your hands too. How many have you got there? All right. Awesome. Thank you guys for being in here. As Kathleen said, we've been doing this work for a while here in the state. We have homes in 25 of the 39 counties, which for some of us, that means we got 14 counties to go, and we will get there. But that's 346 homes in this state right now, and that's wonderful. Over 3,000 beds and 3,000 places for folks to lay their head at night, and that's awesome. 60 women houses, 40 women with children, 221 men houses, and 24 men with children houses. So that's really great, and 3 more coming online soon. We are committed to the growth of this, of your work. Those 300 and some homes are just, again, they're refuge for so many people, and we know we need to grow that in our state, and I know all of you know you need to grow it in your home states as well. So thank you for that, or thank you for all that you're doing. I want to take one more moment, and I'll get off here. And part of my role at the state is to meet and kind of plan with colleagues across the country, and we have an association called the National Association of State Alcohol and Drug Directors. I want to read a little bit from a document, proclamation that was made yesterday and approved. And I'll paraphrase some of this. I won't go through all of it. I'll give it to Kathleen. But whereas Mr. J. Paul Malloy, after spending over 40 years in the field of alcohol and other drug recovery housing, passed away on June 11, 2022 at the age of 83. Whereas Mr. Malloy founded the first Oxford home in 1975 in Silver Spring, Maryland, the nonprofit umbrella organization Oxford Homes, Inc. the same year, and the Oxford House World Services in 1989, before restructuring the board of directors in 97. Whereas Mr. Malloy, leadership of the Oxford House model has influenced the nation, understanding and policy regarding self-supported, community-based recovery housing by and for individuals recovering from substance use disorder. And whereas Mr. Malloy has grown the Oxford House movement to include over 3,300 self-sustaining homes and serving more than 25,000 individuals at any time during the year across 44 states and several foreign countries. Therefore, be it resolved that on this day, September 22nd, 2022, on behalf of the State Alcohol and Drug Agency directors across the country, the NASDAQ Board of Directors wishes to recognize the distinguished contributions of Mr. Paul Malloy, CEO, Oxford House Incorporated World Services. I'll step away and have a terrific conference. Thanks, everybody.
Ricky, are we ready? Okay, so our next segment is we're very, very honored to have the Suquamish tribal singers that are going to come up and help honor this day for us.
Osiyamsiyayat. We are the Suquamish tribe, and I'm going to speak just really quickly about the two songs we're going to sing here. It comes from one of our loved ones, Tatiyam, J.R. Morset, and on our res, we have a lot of people who need to be at places like this with you all. They need that help, and unfortunately, our loved one that went on, he passed on from his addictions, and he was one of our culture bearers and one of the people I looked up to as a youth. He made these songs. These songs came to him. His spirit was really rich in that way. He was one of our carvers and our main artists, and he passed away a couple years ago now. And every time someone passes away like that, we take anything they've ever done, they put their heart and their soul into, and we put it away: songs, dances, artworks. And then COVID hit, so we haven't really been able to have time to sing these songs again, these songs that were his, to the public. So it's our custom to introduce the songs and where they come from real quick. And if he were alive today, I know Tatiyam would love to be here with all you people doing this great work. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for that warm embrace. On behalf of our group, we are the Suquamish, representing the Suquamish tribe, who are the first people of this land here, what is now known as Seattle, named after our Suquamish chief, Siat, whose name was later turned into Seattle. We have a short welcome we'd like to give you in our native language here, and then we'll turn it back over to our hosts here and let you continue on with your program. But we'd just like to welcome you all here first in our traditional way, and wish you all well while you're here with us here this week, and wherever you go back home on your journey, we wish you, addiction touches everybody, and it shows no mercy sometimes. So we just thank you all, and we wish you well on your journeys, and hope you continue and help others in need. So I'm going to read this here, and then we'll continue on. Thank you. Hatzlachel twag walapu si abde ishad as jo il chas tisas lab de busad chas. As kodidaf chas twag walapu twad sods ala khad bid ti swat tufted chas. Gwal sok abs ti swat tufted alti disha. To all turi tuhak tas slaslil tis to isha chas alti swat tufted. As jo il chas at a so sachalap twal disha. As kodidaf chas twal tis ko alek. O gold chas ti gwat hatlas ti siayus at ti buck gwat as ko. O guid chas gwat hatlas ti hutch ti buck gwat. O gweld chas gwat tagwal bishid gwalas ti buck gwat kwapada qui so shabab. As kodida chas twal ti slachel. Hat quisas lab sabut lab hoy of chud.
So just to say what he said in English. Good day to you, honorable, noble people, my dear people. We are joyful to see all of you. We are praisingly grateful to you folks for visiting our land. This land right here is of the Suquamish people. Our people lived on this land since the beginning of time. We are joyful that you have arrived here. We are grateful for this gathering. We ask that everyone works together in a good way. We ask that everyone's heart and mind as well. We ask that gifts are shared and received by those who are in need. We are thankful for this day. Watch over yourselves well. I am finished.
Thank you so very, very much. I believe we are now, the Mayor of Seattle could not be here in person this morning, but I believe we have a video welcoming us.
Hello, I'm Mayor Bruce Harrow of this great city of Seattle, and I want to thank you all for having the 2022 Oxford House World Convention hosted right here in Seattle. Very, very honored to be part of this celebration and part of this activity where we exchange thoughts and ideas and motivate one another. This important convention focusing on substance use disorder and recovery comes at a critical time in our nation, in our city, in our state. We continue to look at the effects of the opioid crisis. We continue to look at the effects it has on families, on individuals, on communities. This convention will bring together experts and thousands of Oxford House residents and alumni to discuss how to help people going through a very difficult process of recovery. We know that this is a journey that many of us choose to take together to support one another. The Oxford House has been facilitating housing for people experiencing homelessness and substance abuse disorder for over 30 years in Seattle, beginning in 1992. It has a network of 23 houses in Seattle, 63 houses in all of King County, and I believe 338 houses in our Washington state. Here locally, or at least in our county, this provides over 552 beds for women, men, and individuals with children. So this is a remarkable achievement. This is good work, great work. Thank you as mayor for the dedication to this community. Now this year's convention theme, Rooted in Tradition, what a great thought, emphasizes that the path to long-term recovery requires more than intervention. Sustained recovery requires fostering long-term changes in supportive, stable environment. True care, true compassion, true love. This is where the Oxford House has been a beacon of hope in changing the culture of recovery from substance abuse, as it provides the time and the stability and the peer support needed to promote sustained recovery. And this approach works. The data would suggest that as 75% of Oxford House residents achieve long-term recovery, and that is a remarkable result. These homes are helping people deal with drug addiction and community reentry by providing stable housing and a network of job opportunities, mentorship, peer support. It provides self-sufficiency and gives those in recovery the dignity they deserve. They make people feel good about themselves, and that's what it's all about, a path to recovery. The Oxford House Inspiring Model continues to help people in recovery here in Seattle and around the country becoming productive contributors to their local communities. So as mayor, I want to thank the Oxford House for making a difference in the lives of individuals, a difference in the lives of community members, a difference in our community. They help people recover from substance use disorder and their families, both in Seattle and indeed across the nation. So I hope all members of the convention have fruitful discussions. They make new friends. They have meaningful ideas and meaningful discussions that they're willing to share with one another. Enjoy your stay in our city, and thank you helping me as the mayor build One Seattle.
So thank you to everybody who helped open the meeting. You know, putting on a convention like this is the culmination of just a tremendous amount of effort from all kinds of folks, but we have about 235 outreach workers out there in the field. They're led by an amazing team. Jason Giroux heads up our contracts department as director. Lori Holtzclaw is now our director of national field services. Jackson Long is our director of communication information. And Leanne Tyler is our chief financial officer. And we are very honored to be able to try to keep moving forward what Mr. Malloy, James McLean, who's from our board of directors, sort of set forth. And so I want to thank all the staff for all of their hard work getting here. It takes a lot of work to get everybody here. How many of you are here for your very first Oxford House Convention? Oh my gosh. Well, this is really incredible. Across the country, they're having a big celebration of recovery in the District of Columbia and D.C. But I say the party is really here. This is an amazing group. I think it was one of Mr. Malloy's favorite times of year to bring everybody together to help you all learn more about not only Oxford House, but what's going on in the recovery field by having professionals in the field and researchers come and share what they're learning with us. All of that is just an amazing thing. We always say the magic is in the mix of bringing all kinds of people together so that we can learn and grow. I hope you take some time to read through the program. There's some amazing stories of success and hope in the back. There's lots of information about what breakouts. I think we have 25 different breakouts, 3 general sessions. So there's so much to learn. I encourage you to break up, and if you came with a group, and everybody go to something different so you can take it back to your houses and share. The theme this year, Rooted in Tradition, it doesn't mean we're stuck there. but we are rooted in tradition. The manual, what the first 13 men put together is something short of miraculous. I know you all agree with me. And we're going to take a few moments and this morning and really honor and tribute to Mr. Beloy. We have some folks that are going to come up here and share a little bit with us. We have a couple of videos we're going to show you, and then we're going to start our day and have a lot of fun and share a lot of experience. So I thank you all for being here. Thank you guys for all the work getting here, and thank you to the people that opened us. I don't know about you, but the tribal singers really touched my heart this morning, helped me calm down. It's a little nerve-wracking sometimes. But this is one of my favorite times of the whole convention. It is always just unbelievable to me that 1,500 folks that are in recovery from a substance use disorder have gotten up before 8 o'clock in the morning, dressed up, shown up, and I mean, look at this. This is absolutely amazing. All to learn a little bit about shared responsibility and shared leadership. So somebody shared that with me earlier this year, and that meant a lot to me. So with that, I'd like to ask Dr. Clark, who is the former director of the CSAT for SAMHSA, Yvette Torres, a former associate director of policy and communication for CSAT. And we have some other folks that are going to be coming up. If you guys can transition off, and you'll be seeing a ton of all of them. Marty Walker, Steve Poland, if you'd come up. Brandy. Wherever you want to sit. Yeah, that's fine. If you guys would join me up here. So, all of us have a lot of shared memories of Paul and learned a lot from him. I'm going to let Dr. Clark come up here and start us off. I just want to say hello. I hope that Jane Malloy, Paul's wife, is watching this morning, so if you can see us, we're here, we're doing this. I know that she wished she could be with us this year, but could not. Paul's 5 children, hopefully some of them are also watching. We want to honor him in a way that he would appreciate, and that would be also to have a lot of fun. He changed my life tremendously. I was 28 years old when I moved into Oxford House, and I thought I was going to stay for 3 months, and here I am almost 30 years later. So I certainly could not have done that. I had the honor and the privilege of spending a lot of time with Paul the last month of his life, and let me tell you, he talked about Oxford House to the very last minute with handing out annual reports to nurses and hospice nurses and anyone that would listen. And this is not this is serious. This is absolutely what he loved, what he believed in. He loved his family, and he shared a lot about that and his great relationship with his wife and his children. But he loved Oxford House, and he wanted to make sure everybody understood that. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Clark, who I don't think has missed a single convention since 1999. Very supportive. Thank you, Dr. Clark.
Thank you, Kathleen. And I want to thank you for continuing to invite me to Oxford House, the annual convention. This is one of the most impressive array of individuals that I ever encounter. And I've been to a lot of meetings with a lot of people, and here there's a sense of fellowship and communion that cannot be adequately described. So I want to thank all Oxford House residents for being here. I want to thank you for exercising your sense of autonomy, your sense of freedom of choice, your freedom to create a future for yourselves as individuals, as members of the groups of people that devoted to moving beyond the reach of alcohol or drugs by creating your Oxford House as a safe space to be. There are many pathways to recovery, and the 1,500 of you who are here can choose any pathway that you want. But the Oxford House pathway is one of those pathways that's most impressive. I say these things first because I'm here to honor the memory of Paul Malloy. And Paul Malloy's spirit is woven into the fabric of Oxford House, but you are that fabric. And without the fellowship, Paul's words would have been empty. I came to meet Paul Malloy in 1999 when this was one of the first, that was the first Oxford House convention. I accepted it at the insistence of Yvette Torres, who was my communications director. And having come to Oxford House, I realized that you were onto the secret sauce of reality. There are a lot of programs these days. There are a lot of people interested in making a good buck and a quick buck. And later I'm going to talk about that. I know that the proprietary interests of the marketplace could not exceed the practical framework of Oxford House, which emphasized the democratic group decision-making of the people assembled who have a vested interest. So when I attended that meeting, I was exposed to the philosophy, not just from Paul, who I'm here to honor, but from you, whose recovery is Paul. Some believe that stressing the importance of being alcohol and drug-free is old-fashioned, rooted in tradition. Yet recovering from drugs and alcohol within the Oxford House framework has demonstrated an effectiveness and a low-cost method of achieving recovery, of recovering your lives, that can't be achieved with professional care alone. And this is not, I'm a psychiatrist, I'm not here to denigrate medicine or professional intervention. But what Paul was able to show me, and what you were able to show me individually and with Paul's assistance, is that you could achieve freedom from alcohol and drugs using a group strategy. So with over 3,200 sober homes using the Oxford House model and more than 25,000 residents of Oxford House at any time during the year, you play a major role for our society. And it's really unfortunate that government doesn't recognize that as much as it should. Not that you want government in your life or in your business. But it is important because we often talk about housing and homelessness and recovery, and we've got all sorts of policies. HHS proposed $11 billion for substance abuse. And what Paul was able to say is, with a shoestring budget and a commitment of people to being drug and alcohol free, he could achieve as much as that $11 billion could achieve. So I want to stress that you're a group of trailblazers, men and women, people of all colors, sexual orientation, people with children, and something that the government tries to create a framework. So, okay, we've got programs for men and programs for women with children and programs for this and programs for that, and they've got a secret that they refuse to see, Oxford House. The Substance Abuse and Mental Health Service Administration defines recovery as a process of change through which individuals improve health and wellness, live self-directed lives, and strive to reach their full potential. Hello? That's what Paul was showing me. So when I would come to yesterday I arrived and I was walking around from table to table, got a couple of T-shirts, listened to a few songs and dances, as it were. it was people striving to reclaim their lives. SAMHSA talks about health, learning to overcome, manage, and more successfully live with symptoms and making healthy choices that support one's physical and emotional well-being. They talk about home, a stable and a safe place to live. They talk about purpose, meaningful daily activities such as a job, school, volunteer work, or creative endeavors, increased ability to lead a self-directed life, and meaningful engagement in society. They talk about community, relationships, and social networks that provide support, friendship, love, and hope. And all they have to do is come here. That catalog of possibilities is manifest by 1,500 people. You think of Oxford House, its purpose and its mission, it captures all of the dimensions that the experts and the bureaucrats put together. In addition to the discussion of recovery, SAMHSA attempts to define peer support. Peer support encompasses a range of activities and interactions between people who share similar experiences of being diagnosed with mental illness conditions, substance use disorders, or both. This mutuality, often called peerness, between a peer support worker and a person in or seeking recovery promotes connection and inspires hope. And again, I say, let's think of Oxford House and its residents. The residents of Oxford House offer acceptance, understanding, and validation. Rather than relying on peer support workers, each of one of you is working. You help each other develop your own goals, create strategies for self-empowerment, and take concrete steps toward building fulfilling, self-determined lives. That's what Paul Malloy was able to show me and remind me over the years, the 20-something years, that this was happening. He was not a god. He was not someone to be venerated. What he was a facilitator, helping others achieve what they needed to achieve. You play an essential role in developing a recovery-oriented system because you offer a range of person-centered, strength-based supports for long-term recovery. Your efforts help each other achieve recovery capital, the thing that people talk about being necessary to achieve recovery. That's what Paul Malloy was pointing out. So he would show up at SAMHSA meetings, he would show up, he would call, he would do this, and he was saying, I'm a facilitator. I want you to see what people are doing under the umbrella of Oxford House, what you're doing. So now that the larger society is paying closer attention to the importance of recovery and the contribution of peers, it's essential that we not forget that Oxford House and its members are pioneers, both in recovery and peer support. And we should not forget Paul Malloy. He threw himself in the mix. He reached out to any and all who would listen. He believed in the freedom to choose of each and every resident of Oxford House. The Washington Post described Paul as a lawyer who was a founder and principal driving force of Oxford House. And indeed, he helped start it. He was one of the, 13 original members. But he understood that service, that giving back, was more important than status and prestige and recognition, that you were the living memorial of anybody who was interested in achieving anything in this sphere. So I like to think that Paul would say that it's the community of those in recovery who sought sanctuary in the many Oxford houses that were his driving force and that embody his thinking, his goal, and his objective. So, as many in the Baptist community would say, we celebrate Paul's life, we celebrate his death because his death is not marred by anything tragic. Death comes. I'm 76, he was 83, so I'm an old man. I understand what death looks like. But what I would like to say, but when my time comes, that if I could have done what he's done to help you, to facilitate your recovery, then I would be happy to say that I led a fulfilling life of purpose, just as Paul Malloy did.
Thank you, Dr. Clark. I'm going to invite Vet Torres up here.
Well, that needs the box of tissues.
She says she needs a box of tissues, and we got you covered.
I have one.
Paul had a very special place in his heart for Yvette, and always encouraged her to come to the conventions and share her energy and her spirit. So thank you for showing up this weekend to help us.
Good morning, family. Paul left this world, as has been mentioned, and his material baggage on June 11th of this year. And today, I wish to give my condolences already to Jane and the children, and particularly to his also beloved Oxford House family. His parting indeed has left a void that many might not have foreseen, given his past encounters with disaster after disaster due to his alcoholism. Heck, he himself would poke fun at that history with his inimitable Irish storytelling. You remember that, don't you? And he did love to tell a good story, and could, because his life was full of stories, both good and others more challenging. Stories about his time as a federal public servant, his congressional committees, all the grief he had put Jane through and his children, because to run this outfit and dedicating all the time that he did, there was a little bit of, one would say, a void there. But in a way, his life might have turned out quite differently, with very few stories, had he not gone through grief and pain himself. The biggest story he told was about Oxford House. He would love to tell it over and over and over again. And none of us ever got tired of hearing it, because it was his life. You all of you, were his life. He personally guided so many of you through your difficulties and was a great help to thousands in overcoming the disease of addiction. His ability to give back was fueled by his own trials with the disease, which he turned into a life of unprecedented achievement in the recovery arena. Who would have thought that the experiment he took part in would turn out to be one of the most successful models for recovery housing throughout the country and abroad? Just think, more than 3,300 homes with a presence in 44 states and thousands upon thousands upon thousands, hundreds of thousands persons served. What is most admirable about Oxford House and what he guided, besides his statistical and empirical success, is the philosophy behind the framework of this operation. Its premise is based on dignity and responsibility. Dignity and responsibility. Not a handout. And this is what Dr. Clark was so eloquently trying to say, that each and every one of you recognize that. At Oxford House, you have to be a part of your own healing by working and accepting responsibility for the running of each home. I think that Paul tried quite diligently to speak to that issue to as many government, legislative, and civic leaders that would hear him, and not just them. His grandest platform was this very auspicious Oxford House World Convention. He loved being here. He loved speaking to as many participants as possible one-on-one. He tried to go to every single workshop just to drop in and listen. And then he would take pictures and move on to the next one. How many of you remember that? At the training conferences throughout the year, he would be making every speaker welcome and every participant attentive. I dare say that Paul Molloy was passionate about Oxford House. It was a visceral passion for what I call the work, that we will carry on the mandate to keep expanding the empire that Paul Molloy helped to build. And I want to take a moment here because this is very important. There are more than 3,300 homes, hopefully I'm right. But Paul wanted 10,000 homes. How many of you know that he used to pound that into all of you? He wasn't going to be happy. Karen knows because she told me this yesterday. Until he got 10,000 homes. So as you participate in this conference and go to the workshops, remember that you're only up to 3,300 plus. That you need to step it up. Okay? But you know, he was not alone in this venture. He was assisted by the many talented and committed board members, administrative leaders, and staff who patiently worked to achieve the extremely high expectations that Paul had built for the organization. And I want to remind us that that work is not finished. That work is not finished. He is watching over us to make sure that the work continues. So let us ask ourselves to recommit to the principles crafted by Paul Molloy and his colleagues in 1975. One in particular comes to mind, EES. Do you know what EES is? EES. Only this time, and only for today, EES will stand for Equal Empowerment Share. It means that each and every one of you will need to gird your loins. It's biblical, but it cannot be said any clearer. Gird your loins to forge ahead into a future that will require much more than what Paul ever faced, believe it or not. We are living in very, very challenging times. And such times call for us to mentor, sacrifice, and empower many to carry on the work that Paul Molloy and others started. Each one of you are called to sustain his work by making each and every Oxford house a success. Yeah. Applaud that. Because I know how hard it is. I was in the elevator a day ago or two, and one of them was not complaining, but they were saying that one of the residents had relapsed and we got to kick him out. No. And then I thought to myself, you know, it's true that that is one of the principles, that you kick him out. But my hope is that those persons don't get lost, that you do not drop them, that someone in those houses cares enough to go back and fish them out again, out of their addiction. Each and every one of you are called to sustain his work, whether you're a resident, a manager, a group leader, whatever your capabilities are, you will need to step it up in order to pay homage to the one that has left us. He mentored many by listening and, yes, being stubborn. Paul was stubborn, wasn't he, Kathleen? And perhaps he was stubborn for the right reasons. He also left many quite ready to carry on the work. Kathleen Gibson has been with the organization, you said, for 30 some odd years. And Kathleen is going to need your help. Kathleen is going to need your prayers. Kathleen is going to need every single part of you to engage to help this organization continue its mission and to carry on. We all know that the leadership role that each individual Oxford House is not easy. It calls for each and every one of you to visualize the founding principles of each house and to orchestrate their implementation so that Oxford houses continue to serve as a stalwart of the recovery housing framework in this country and abroad. Paul never stopped visualizing how this organization could continue to grow. He never stopped caring for you individually or collectively. His faith carried him through the most difficult time, and his need to give back filled him with the courage to continue in spite of many obstacles. And he did all of this in a platform of love. Very simple, love. May his love for what he helped to build carry us forward to continue the work of his legacy. Rest in peace, recovery champion.
Thank you to Dr. Clark and Yvette. We're going to have some Oxford House folks come up and share 2-3 minutes apiece so we can try to keep the train on the tracks if that's possible. Some of Paul's closest relationships and some people he championed so much, and I'm going to start with Steve Poland, who is a General Counsel for Oxford House and an alumni of Oxford House as well.
Hi, my name is Steve, and I'm an addict and alcoholic. Real quick, let me tell you how I met Paul Malloy. Years ago, in the late 70s, early 80s, I worked at the Justice Department as a paralegal, went to law school at night, and I was a full-time cocaine addict. And to supplement my income, I dealt. I got caught. I went to trial, I was convicted, and I went to prison. After spending 22 months at Club Fed, I got out of, when I was released, I had no place to live. Now, this is like 1986, and my sponsor said, well, why don't you move into an Oxford House? And I had no idea what an Oxford House was. So I went and interviewed at Oxford House Kalorama in Washington, D.C., and I was accepted. Then I became a client of the District of Columbia Bar's Lawyers Counseling Program. And the director of that program suggested to me that I pursue my admissions to the bar. And I'm going like, I'm a convicted felon. And she says, I know just the person to help you. His name was Paul Malloy. He founded Oxford House. And not only did he was the founder of Oxford House, he also was one of the founders of the Lawyers Counseling Program of the DC Bar, which is designed to help, at that point, attorneys that had alcohol problems. It is now encompasses all kinds of problems. And I said, sure, I'll meet with him. So Paul and I had lunch. I told him about my issues in about 2 minutes, and the rest of the lunch, Paul told me about his visions for Oxford House. And this lasted about an hour. And this was probably in 1987 or 1988. And he agreed to help me. He drafted the petition for the bar. We had a hearing. And all this time, I'm working with Paul, and Paul is telling me more and more about his plans to expand Oxford House. Remember now, there's only like 13 Oxford Houses in existence at the time. I don't know if the Anti-Drug Abuse, must have been the Anti-Drug Abuse Act, in 1988 had gone into effect, because right after my initial hearing before the admissions committee, Paul and I took a road trip. And one of the things about Paul you need to know, back then he was really big on road trips. And if you ever took a road trip with Paul, your first road trip was an eye-opener, because you really had to buckle up your seatbelt. Because Paul had an unusual driving style. Those of you who've ever ridden with Paul. Back then he smoked a pipe. He would sit in that driver's seat and he would cross his right leg over his left and use his left foot to brake and to accelerate. And you sit there and going like, Paul, what the hell's going on? Don't you know that you have a passenger in the car? And the whole time he'd be talking about expanding Oxford House, and he and I drove up I-95, I don't know how many times. We went to Connecticut, we went to New York, we went to Vermont. And those of you that know Paul's story, Paul is from Vermont, which sort of develops his kinship with Bill Wilson. And literally, the first thing we did when we get into Vermont is you go through a town called East Dorset, which is where Bill Wilson was born. We would stop, we would go to the Bill Wilson house, we would go to Bill Wilson's grave. I met Paul's brother. We go to Vermont, we go to Burlington, where Paul went to school, and met his wife Jane. In the meantime, the first contract Oxford House got for expansion was with the state of Vermont. And he sent me and the late Jack Strong to Burlington to open up the first Oxford House. But one of the other things that we did, and I was involved with this, is that Paul would put together what was called dog and pony shows. And we would go to various states and various organizations with me, and Mark is over here, and there were several others, and we would tell the Oxford House story and how Oxford House benefited us. One of the states that we went to, and those of you that have read the Washington Post magazine story that was written, I think, in 1990, we went to New Jersey, where his good friend Riley Reagan was the head of the Governor's Council on Alcoholism and Drug Addiction, and gave a presentation to them. And the reason I'm telling this is because as I was walking in today, I saw right down this aisle here somebody with a T-shirt, and on the back of it says, "Let the inmates run the asylum." Well, if you read that Washington Post magazine story, you will see that is exactly what we told these guys from the state of New Jersey when they were wondering about how is it that a bunch of addicts and alcoholics could possibly be responsible for their own recovery, running a household, paying the bills, managing their affairs, and our response is because we let the inmates run the asylum. And that is sort of a segue into, and I'm going to finish up here in a minute. Paul, and here we are. What do we have? 1,500 people in this room, 2,000 people? 2,000 family members, all right? Because we are all family. And that is the number one thing when I started my association with Paul Molloy, because I wasn't working with him then. The other things you got to know about Paul was that he was always willing to help people. And he had this penchant, he had this eye for picking up, especially lawyers, fallen lawyers off the scrap heap, and helping them out. And I'm exhibit one in terms of that, because when I met Paul, I couldn't practice law. And as a result of my association with Oxford House, finally the D.C. Court of Appeals said, he's rehabilitated, let him in. But the number one, like in Star Trek, the prime directive of Oxford House, not only is it's the democratic nature, but we are family. We are family. And when Paul Molloy and I and Molly Brown sat in his basement before we started this expansion, Paul would go on and on and on and on about how Oxford House is family. And I would sit there and go like, well, I don't understand. And he would explain it to me about how we relate to each other, how we provide emotional support, how we keep an eye on each other, and that the way an Oxford House runs, as opposed to any other type of recovery housing, is we take responsibility for what we do, and we pay our own bills. And from that day on, not from that day on, that was what we always explained to anybody who would listen as to why we were entitled to live in single-family zones, and single-family neighborhoods, and in single-family residences. And then when the Fair Housing Act was passed in 1988, making disabled persons a protected class, and under that, recovering addicts and alcoholics, Paul gave me the task and said, here, you figured this out. And when we get, I don't know, is Greg Hefner here? Yes. Anyway, in the early expansion, Paul would send Greg Hefner to New Jersey, and every place Greg Hefner would open up a house in Cherry Hill or Audubon or Plainfield, we got smacked with injunctions in state court enjoining us from operating the Oxford House. And Paul said, here, figure this out, go find attorneys, go explain to these attorneys that we are a family and they have to make a reasonable accommodation for us in their zoning laws. And eventually the tide turned. So here we are, here I am, from 13 houses in 1986 to, what do we have, 3,300 now, something like that. It's an unbelievable journey. And I want to correct Ms. Torres, because when Paul and I would take these road trips, Paul would say, we're going to open up 20,000 houses, not 10,000 houses. And he says, we're going to be just like McDonald's. This is before Starbucks, okay? We're going to be just like McDonald's, and we're going to have one on every corner, okay? Well, here we are 30 years later. We've gone from 13 houses to 3,300 houses, and the spirit and the ideas and the idealism and the vision of Paul Molloy lives on, and it's all because of you. Thank you very much.
I'm going to ask Brandy Bauer to come up here and share a little bit. And then we're going to show a short video. Yes. Jackson's over there. No, we don't have time. All right, Paul Jr. We're going to show one video that we have. And when we come back this afternoon for our general session, we're going to have Marty Walker and Mark Spence share a little bit, and because we've got to keep the trains on the track, as Paul would say. But we're going to have Brandy come up and share a little bit. We're going to show the one video from the outside folks. And then when we come back this afternoon, we're going to have Marty and Mark share a little bit, and we're going to have Paul Malloy share for himself, because we have a great reel of his inspirational stuff. So with that, I'll give you Brandy.
Good morning. There is a TV right here, and I can see myself. It's not right. That's fancy. Hi, Jane. I'm very grateful to be here. I'm very honored that I was asked to speak, because Paul was my best friend. If you didn't know that, now you do. And I've been training for this 3 minutes since I first ran for a world council, because Paul used to stand over us while we gave our speech, and it's 3 minutes. He let me go a little bit longer because I'm distracting. That's a great video out there somewhere. How many of you have seen the 60 Minutes video? If you have not, please do. Please do. So 11 conventions ago, I think, I attended my first Oxford House World Convention in Oklahoma, and that's where my love for Oxford House and that fire was lit. And it was also when I first met Paul Malloy. I was starstruck. I was like, oh my God, there's Paul, because the video, he was famous, and I was just super excited. And I cannot contain my excitement. I try, but it's hard. And so from day one that I met Paul, I hugged Paul. I hugged Paul hard. I always sought Paul out and hugged Paul. For the next 9 or 10 conventions, I hugged Paul. That was my goal, was to hug Paul. And so I did. And I also got pictures of it. Every time, because you had to have proof that I hugged Paul. So, do you know that I just recently found out that Paul is not a huggy person? I had no idea. But I didn't really give him a choice either, because I attacked. I just run up and hug Paul. He had no choice. I was telling Jason, I was like, I had no idea. How come anybody didn't tell me that Paul doesn't do hugs? And he said, well, you were the only one that got away with it. All shucks. I've got notes. I just heard yesterday in the women's conference, I believe it was Elizabeth Smith, she said, I have notes here because if I didn't, I would either talk about cats or cheese. So I need to stay on topic, so I have notes. This program that's in your bags when you registered, you got this. I guess it's called a program. Do you know the stories in the back that you wrote and you turned in? Paul would read every one. He would sit and read and learn something about every one of us that lived in Oxford House. He cared that much. He loved us. I was like, the first time I got to sit down with him, okay, let me let you know now, when the outreach or the people tell you to submit your stories but only make it a couple of paragraphs, because I tell you, when I first submitted my story, which got printed, was like 7 pages long. And Paul asked that we not do that again. So I am the reason we have a limit. So one evening I was sitting outside with Paul. He'd come outside to smoke, and shoot the shit, and we were... That's not in my notes. I'm sorry. But he did. He'd come out there and sit down and smoke, and he would ask me how my barbershop was doing. And I never corrected him, because it wasn't my barbershop. I didn't want to correct him because he's Paul, duh. I'm like, yes, sir, it's doing great. My barbershop is doing great. And, I never corrected him, though I believe he truly spoke it into existence, because today I own that barbershop. I'd like to thank Paul for that. He spoke it into existence for me. So last year, I'm almost done, I'm doing really good. Last year, I was elected by you all to serve on the Oxford House World Convention. And with the World Council, my bad. You knew, yeah. And so in doing so, you've condemned me to learning how to do a computer, because I'm not a computer person. But also, I'm very grateful for that because I've had to learn how to email. And that's like a long text is really all it is. Like, it's really not all that. Anyway, I learned how to email, and I overheard Paul's email address, guys. They told me, don't abuse it. I'm like, I won't. I only sent like 500, that's all. I'm just joking. I only sent 3. I was mature about it. I'm trying, be grown about this. But I sent about 3 at our World Council Summit. They normally do a phone call. We used to talk to Paul over the phone when we finished our summit. And we didn't get to talk to him this time. So I was upset and got the email address, and I emailed him. And he emailed me back. Y'all just don't know how much I love Paul. Anyway. Well, Karen shared with me one of his last emails. Thank you all that, shared things with me. Even though I'm not a staff, I'm not an employee, but you loved me as one, and I got to hear the things about Paul, and know things. And one of his last emails was count blessings and not grievances. Yeah. So I emailed him. I asked if I could email him, because shortly after that I found out that he wasn't going to be with us much longer. And so I asked if I could email him because I didn't want to overstep any boundaries. And so I did. And although it wasn't in person, I hugged Paul through an email. And I wanted to share with you. Now, I don't know if he saw it. There was no reply. I'd like to believe that he did. I even emailed Jane afterwards, sending hugs, even though they're not huggy people. They sent hugs. But here's the email. I said, and I try to make humor about everything, I'm going to laugh, and it's just awful to do that. I said, remember that one time I showed you my Oxford Strong tattoo, and you said, does it say Oxford String? And I was like, no, it says Oxford Strong. I said, or that time I showed up on Trump's shoulders. Anyway, or I brought you socks with my face all over them. I don't even know if he wore those, but they was super. It had my face all over them. I gave them to him. I said, or my favorite time is when you gave me the Founders Award and you called me your Southern Belle. Yesterday made 8 years I've been an alumni. 10.5 years that Oxford House got to meet me. A thank you doesn't seem to be enough to express my gratitude, but thank you. Thank you so much. I love Oxford House with all that I am, and I will protect it forever. I hope to serve Oxford House and the World Council the way that makes you proud forever and always. Sending virtual hugs. Love you lots. A drunk, druggie, and a crazy named Brandy. I ended it with WWPD. What would Paul do? And hugs. So, like I said, hugs, they don't hug. And I'll end with, Paul once said when he gave me the Founders Award that a person like me comes along every once in a while and they won't let the organization get sleepy. I guarantee you that I am here to keep y'all woke. Okay. Thank you for letting me share.
Yes, I know what time it is. We're going to watch a video for about 10 minutes. Mr. McLean's going to come up and share a little bit about the World Council, and then we're going to break and try to come back as quickly as possible. Are you thinking that we can't do the video? No? We don't have time? Okay. We're not going to show the other video right now. We're going to have to show it this afternoon because we like to share and express our feelings. So we also need to be flexible, right? I know you all are about ready for your break. But we're going to have James McLean, who's on our board of directors, who's an alumni of Oxford House, who you all know. He works with the World Council, and he's going to come up here and share a little bit about what we do. One of the things we do here is we elect new World Council members. Our World Council works very hard all year long to help support Oxford House and help guide us along our way. So with that, I'm going to give you my dear, dear friend, James McLean.
Good morning, everybody. My name is James McLean. I'm a member of long-term recovery, which means I have not had a drink or drug since May the 23rd, 1982. I didn't get a chance to speak about Paul, but I will tell you one thing, Paul had visions. And one of Paul's visions was that the World Council would be started because the board of director members were all you all guys, and we didn't have any outside pull to get any money, any help for us, so we decided to name the board of directors of Oxford House and World Council. And it's an important job, it's an important position because we only elect officers or members of the World Council one time a year. It's a membership where you have to be dedicated to helping Oxford House to grow, to get better. And so every year we come to the convention and we elect members of the World Council. Now, if it's so important we do it once a year, then if you commit yourself to being a World Council member, you should be planning to at least be there a year or more. You probably might get elected a 3-year term. And we have a very simple process about which you can get elected. I can't elect you to be a member of the World Council. You have to elect your members to be the World Council membership. And there's a procedure that we use that helps you to do that. If you want to be a member of the World Council, you have to get a slip of paper, and you go around and you get 5 people, 5 houses to say they know you, they want you to be a member of the World Council, but there are restrictions to that. You have to be a president, so that we'll do that all later on. But you have to be a member, have to be a president of a house at one time. But what you will do is you will get your slip of paper, and you will go around to all these members. You don't have much time to do this, so it has to be in by 12:45. And you will get, if you're a resident, you get a green sheet of paper with the information on it. If you're an alumni, you get a yellow sheet of paper. But the idea is that you are asking members of this crew in the houses around the country to allow you to become a member of the World Council, which to me is one of the most prestigious groups there is, because we elect the members annually at the World Convention. And so it is so important that you understand that and that you do this. But see, now if you want to become a member of the World Council, you have between now and 12:45 to get these papers filled out and passed in. Now, I know you're kind of tired, and I know you've been through a lot, so let's do something that I always like to do to kind of perk you up, okay? We're going to say, I feel healthy, I feel happy, and I feel terrific. And we're going to say it again, but we're going to get a little louder, you know what I mean? So now I feel healthy, I feel happy, and I feel terrific. Now we're going to blow the house down, okay? Let's go. I feel healthy, I feel happy, and I feel terrific. And I love you.
Jackson Long in long-term recovery. 1 second, 1 second, 1 second. Get your phones out. You're going to have to snap a couple of photos real quick. You're going to have to snap a couple of photos. There's some housekeeping items for 2 minutes that's important for everybody. Since we're all in one room, I don't want to chase down 1,400 people and answer all the 1,400 questions. So I'm going to try to answer a couple right here, and then we can go out and get started with the breakouts. So next slide. Or does this control it? I don't know what controls it. All right. We want everybody to be safe. If you're feeling under the weather, please get with somebody. We have some tests. If you're worried or you think that you may have gotten sick with COVID during your travels, we want to protect you and everybody here. When you're touring Seattle, if you're not from a big city, go as a group tonight. There are some areas of town that may be triggering for you, and I just want you to be aware. The city of Seattle does have some areas that may be a little dangerous if you're by yourself. Just be aware, be safe. The schedule, you have to have your badge to get into breakouts. There's very limited space. If the breakouts fill up, come in here. There's plenty of seats in here for the breakouts to happen in here. So 2, 3, 4, and 5 that are on the 5th floor, they will fill up. They will fill up. Come up here if they're full. Please be respectful, be on time as best you can. I know the elevators are running slow. Please be as quick as you can between breaks. And when you come in, please be as quiet as you can to respect the speakers. Please smoke away from the building in designated areas. There'll be people out there that will help direct you. Please understand they're just trying to follow the rules of the hotel. Don't be upset with them. We can follow the rules now and play nice with the normies of the world. Let's play nice. Meals and coffee, I don't have time to go over. Just keep your eyes out for meals and coffee. There'll be some stuff around. Hospitality suite will be open for lunch for people that do not have anything, any food, any money in their pocket. There will be very limited food options for lunch on Friday and Saturday in room 601. The raffle will be in here. I know the program says it's in the same room as the dance. It will be in here Saturday night. So make sure you hold on to your tickets. Buy as many tickets you can. Bring them here Saturday night. And there will be a link to surveys. We need feedback from you all how we're doing so we can make the convention bigger and better every year. As Paul envisioned, we can get thousands of people here. Take a picture of this. This is how to get the app. If you don't have the convention app, we'll keep this slide open for 5 seconds. Then we're going to move to another slide. 4, 3, 2, 1. Next slide. This is the scavenger hunt. QR code. Take a picture of this. There are prizes for the scavenger hunt. There's people taking pictures of me and asking how to spell my name, so I think I'm on the scavenger hunt at some point. You might go ahead and get a picture of me just for 2 seconds. All right, you got that one checked off. What's the next one? Remembering the loss. Take a picture of this. If somebody in your area has passed away, normally on Sunday morning we have mics open for you to share. Unfortunately, too many people have passed away in the last year. Let's remember and let's honor those that have passed in the last year. And so we will have a running list of names. If you want to add a name to the list, this is how you do it.